Well, I hope there's a few people get to tune in. I don't know if there's anybody there. I was supposed to be talking with wizards on my stream deck, but for some reason I couldn't get on the channel. So I've just come straight on YouTube here live. This is me talking about all things pagan, spiritual. So if anyone decides to start watching, please drop me a line. And if you like what you see, please subscribe and put a like down there, because that helps with the algorithm, gets me up there. And I'm going to start doing this as much as I can. What I will do is, if anyone wants to come in and get a rune reading, I'll do a rune reading live on the air. But so I live in a place called Weston-super-Mare. It used to be called Winterstoke, and it's... Hello, Dreamer. Nice to see you. Yeah, it used to be called Winterstoke. It's now called Weston-super-Mare, and it's facing across the Bristol Channel. There are two islands. There's Steepholm and Flatholm, and these two islands are the origins of the Lady of the Lake, and that goes back to a story of Brutus. Whether you believe this or not, it's a legend and a myth, and I'm going to tell it, and you can make up your own mind. So Brutus came to England, and he had three sons. One was called Cymry, one was called Alban, and one was called Lacrinus. Cymry became the leader of the Welsh, Alban became the leader of the Scottish, and Lacrinus ruled over the English Isles, all except Cornwall. Well, Lacrinus was a great general and was promised to marry Rhiannon, the daughter of the Duke of Cornwall. But in his excursions up north, he came across a Saxon princess who they took as a hostage, and her name was Odysseus, and she was absolutely beautiful. Lacrinus wanted to marry her, but Rhiannon said, absolutely no way, you're supposed to marry me, and if you marry that Saxon girl, there will be war between Cornwall and England. So he married Rhiannon, but he kept Odysseus in secret at her home, and he had a child with Odysseus called Hefren or Sabrina. And Rhiannon found out about this, and she had Lacrinus killed, then took Odysseus and the daughter, Hefren, who was somewhere between 12 and 14 by this time, and Rhiannon had them drowned in the Bristol Channel. Well, the tides at Weston-super-Mare are the most second far-reaching in the world. They go out miles and come back in very quickly. And they tied the two women to the posts, and the tide took their lives. And into this day, one island's called Steepholm, the other one's called Flatholm. Steepholm is the island of Odysseus, and Flatholm is the island that represents Hefren, or Sabrina, or Severn, and it's still called the Severn Estuary or the Severn River to this day. Archaeologists have found anywhere from Bristol right the way up to Gloucester into the Channel, different shrines honouring the young Lady of the Waters, who then became the Lady of the Lake, which is in Avalon, because they're not far apart. Then we get to the Lady of the Lake and the Avalonian story. But all the stories that are associated with Avalon and Glastonbury, most of them came through here, because even Christ and Mary Magdalene, when they came to Britain, had to come through Winterstoke, as it was called then, and then go across the lakes of Avalon, the levels, to get to Glastonbury. Joseph of Arimathea was said to have been here. A very famous witch called Dion Fortune was born here. Violet Frith, her name was then. She met Aleister Crowley, who started the Golden Dawn, and she was the first girl to be allowed into the Masons because she was such a gifted psychic. But she saw what was going on and she didn't like it too much, and she left to start the Circle of Light in Glastonbury. So that's a bit about where I live. Behind me is my drum, my shamanic drum, which if I do a journey I'll use, or the other one. I have my runes laid out in front of me. Anyone has any questions, please ask. I don't know where they're posted. This is my first time using this, so this is the top chat. Live chat, all messages are visible. So Dreamer, where are you from? I know you've been on a couple of my live feeds. I think from what I'm told on other channels, you're supposed to put in Scotland. Thank you, sister. So you have to put 777 in the feed, and then that will get me more likes. I don't know how this works, but when I'm looking at the crypto, because I have a lot to do with crypto as well, they're always saying put 777 in the feed because it helps with the algorithm. And if anyone watching, there's now a total of 3 of you watching now. If you have any questions, please ask. And what would you like me to talk about? What would you like me to answer? It can be anything from crop circles to Bigfoot. I don't mind. I love talking about it all. Yeah, it's been a very interesting time for me because this year my partner mum died in January and my father died in July, and I found out some very interesting things. So I had a meeting of the will, the gathering of the kids. It's a very strange thing that's happening, very bizarre. My older sister managed to tell me that when I was born, she knew I was going to be weird because I was a twin and the bigger child died and I was scrawny and a runt. And I'd never had any idea that I was a twin when I was born. So that's to get to nearly 60 and find that out. It's a bit of a shock to the system. But there's been a lot of arguing within my family, and very strange that I've just been talking about Hafren because I do a lot of work just where out of my window I can see Steephome out there, and there's some cliffs, and I go down the cliffs where there's 3 caves, and I sit with the caves of the Norns, and I ask them to send me messages. And actually Hafren, the young girl, she comes to me a lot, and she came carrying a baby duckling in her hands, and then she gave it to me to look after. This is all shamanically, it's in vision. And as I was holding it, I realized that ducklings are about, it's a gift, a message from somebody from the other side, but especially about the lines, the thin, the contract of family is drawing thin, and it must be held because it's very precious and very vulnerable, which is exactly what's happening in my family at the moment. So I don't think it was my father. I think it was my mother watching over us, because she comes to me a lot now in the shamanic field. But it's Hafren who comes to me. She speaks to me now. I also grew up in Wales as a kid, and I speak some Welsh, which is a magical language. The places I lived as a kid, when I look back now, they were all the first farm my father brought there in the 70s. So we sort of left London because he was a bit of a gangster, and we went to live on the west coast of Welsh-speaking Wales, and he bought a farm called Perthnedir, and I had many experiences with a spirit being there. I even came across a druid living in the woods with jars of animals and stuff on the shelf. Scared the life out of me. I was only 8 years old. But I found out that Perthnedir means snake in the grass. And it goes back to where the druids hid from the Romans when they came there, because the snake is a symbol of the druid, just like St. Patrick driving the snakes out of Ireland. There weren't no snakes there. They were all, that's what you had after 21 years of studying as a druid. You'd have a snake tattooed in each forearm. So, anyone have any questions about the runes? If anyone's interested, my next rune class starts on November the 5th. It's an online class, 6 classes over 6 weeks. You learn 4 runes in each class. By the 6th class, you're working and reading with 24 runes. And it's actually, I do a lot of classes. I teach shamanism, I do initiation, I do storytelling classes, but the actual just teaching the runes, it probably just gives me the greatest pleasure, because I see people go away and be able to use them in their own lives to guide them. That's anyone got any more questions? Otherwise, I'm just going to be rambling on. Does anyone want to know any questions about the runes? Well, that day may come sooner than you think. Who knows? Once you learn the runes, they're a tool for life. I use them in every aspect of my shamanic work, and they set me aside from my ego, because sometimes we have too much ego that separates us. Yeah, you're very right. At this time in the world, it's changed everything. Just be able to afford your petrol and your fuel at the moment. We are being tested in many ways, and I have lost a lot of business because learning the spiritual path doesn't come before buying food. And that's what I have to accept as well for people. And a lot of the shops in Glastonbury, the magical things, because they're not priority, they will be put aside, and a lot of those shops and places will go. But that's just the evolution. We live in a time when people are struggling and they've got to pay their bills. But it doesn't stop you being spiritual and being able to connect to spirit, and finding that time in the day to remember that we are not separate from the earth, we are part of it. Yeah, it's a difficult thing to set up your business at the moment, because the clients that we have that have, I suppose not spare money, but money that they prioritize for spiritual guidance or spiritual teachings, that money is now going on fuel, it's going on the heating, it's going on other things. And I find that completely understandable. So if spirit wants me to carry on with my work, then it will provide for me and show me the things I need to do. But it'll be what it's be. I mean, one of the most spiritual people I know, that she works at the Kentucky Fried Chicken in Glastonbury. That's how she makes her money, but she is a gifted shaman. And connecting with the seasons and the cycles within yourself, we're coming up to Samhain, which is the old Celtic New Year, the end of the cycle. And we go through the winter resting period. This is my favorite time of year, and I'll probably do a live. I'll probably do it on StreamYard, and I'll put it through Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at the same time. Probably be 8 o'clock my time on Samhain, on the Monday evening, where I'll do a ceremony to the dead with candles, drum, and give you a vision quest guided by the gods. You know, and that'll be just me doing my shamanic thing. I'll have my shamanic robes on. I'll have my face painted with my symbol over there, which behind me there on that drum, that's the dragon mask. That's my shamanic symbol, or my rank within Avalon, I suppose. It was the beings of Avalon that gave that to me. So I'll wear that on the Samhain on the 21st, which I think is a Monday night. I'm not sure. But it'll be about 8 o'clock, and it'll either be on YouTube, but it'll be everywhere. And it's me giving back to spirit. And I hope you can make it. If not, it'll be recorded and you can watch it and do the vision in your own time. All right, guys. So anyone watching, if you could give me a like, that would be great. And that's me chat done for today. Only a few minutes, quarter of an hour, just to show me face. And I'm going to try and do it regularly on Friday evenings. So this same time every Friday evening. Hopefully Kelly will be with me, and it will be talking with wizards, but it will be at this time. And if you've got any questions, save them for next week, and I'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in.